It's the Believe in Texans podcast with Cecil Shorts. I'm Seth Payne, both former Texans players. And Cecil, before we get to the Rams matchup, there's some big news. I guess big news. Davis Mills signed an extension, 1 year, $7 million. Pretty lucrative deal for a backup quarterback. Extends him on through the end of next season. But I don't know. Davis Mills had one of the best preseasons I've seen him have, and there's some measure of stability in having him around that I feel good about having CJ or having Davis Mills for at least one more year.
I feel good about it. I think he's really turning into a really good backup quarterback. Like he's turning into a really good pro. I think we saw early on his stages of him developing into a quarterback, and I love how Nick Caserio was patient with him, and they saw something in him. And he can really be a guy that if something happens to CJ can come in and execute the offense and do well and keep the Texans in the game and not hurt the Texans, right?
Yeah.
But it's interesting to me, you give him a 1 year extension and you also keep Graham Mertz on the 53-man roster. You don't often see, I guess not too often, you see three quarterbacks on the 53. Maybe I think most of the time it's two and then a practice squad guy comes on. It can be there and travel a little bit, or maybe it is three. But when you have three guys, and Mertz was a draft pick this year, you must like Mertz. And Mertz did a really good job, especially in the last preseason game, of being efficient, getting rid of the ball quickly, making his reads well. So I think they're confident in Mills, but they like what they see from Mertz, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and we had Nick Caserio on the radio show this morning, and Nick said that teams have called about Davis Mills at various times, kicking the tires on him, talking about him. So I think I like how you're set up to where if Graham Mertz develops and you like him and a really good deal comes along for Davis Mills, I'm guessing this would be a scenario next year more so than this year that you could feel free taking whatever draft pick you get for Davis Mills for a team that also then would have, if they did it this year, they have an extra year of control over Davis Mills. But I think there are a lot of teams that would look at Davis Mills as, hey, we need a quarterback now because of injuries, and maybe we want to draft one next year so he could be a bridge quarterback or what have you. But I think Davis Mills probably knows, that he's perpetually on the trading block. That's just the way it is in the NFL, and that there's a trust factor there that he's in a good situation here, but that if he does get traded, hopefully it's not to just an abysmal situation. That there'd be a little bit of, when Jimmy Garoppolo was with the Patriots, Belichick basically promised that he'd go to a good situation, and that was a different, more of a higher marquee quarterback at that point and a higher trade. But there's something to be said for having trust between the two parties.
Now, is he on contract through the 26th season? Is that correct?
Yeah, through 26.
Oh, through 26. Okay,
through 26. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. That makes sense. You have him for this year and next year, so a 1 year extension. Mertz can continue to develop, and if he develops like they think they will, I'm assuming if they put him on the roster, they really, really like him. You're not putting him on your 53 you don't think can do something. So that makes sense. Trade bait eventually, or maybe he stays. I'm happy with him staying. I'm going to be honest with you. I think when you have a guy that can really fill in well for a game or two, or just anything, it might be a play, but he can do the right thing. You don't want to pass that up. Like it's a comfort feeling for not just the coaches, but the offense too. Like as a player on offense, I know if the starting quarterback went down, he comes in, okay, we in good shape. We're good. Well, it's not too much of a confidence loss.
Yeah, and I think it was one of our viewers that pointed out that, hey, D'Amico himself was on a team in San Francisco where they were his last year in San Francisco, they were playing with their fourth string quarterback at one point. And when Brock Purdy came back in injured in I believe it was a championship game, he had a numb hand, couldn't feel the hand, his throwing hand. So D'Amico has seen firsthand the value of having good depth at quarterback. The notable injuries in this game as we move on into Rams versus Texans, obviously Matt Stafford's a big one. We've talked about him. There is another offensive line injury that we'll get to, but this was Rodney Peete on the Believe in Rams podcast. I think Rodney Peete was a little bit before your time, Cecil, but he played 16 years in the NFL as a quarterback. This is Rodney Peete talking about how he thinks Sean McVay will use Matt Stafford early in the season.
Early on in this season, they're going to find out how durable Matthew Stafford is, but I think they're going to play it very close to the best where they are going to try to get the ball out of his hands quickly. They're going to rely on the running game. As you mentioned, they kept 10 offensive linemen, so they're going to make sure that if one guy goes down, two guys goes down, they're healthy on the offensive line to protect him. but I don't foresee him doing a lot of moving around outside the pocket, at least early in the first couple of games, until they figure out that he can take a hit and that back is going to hold up.
Yeah, and this game's fascinating because I think both teams, you always want to protect your quarterback, but this year with the Texans, the whole offseason MO has been how do we get CJ in a better environment where he's time to throw the football? And then with Matt Stafford, it's just, okay, how do we keep this 37-year-old quarterback from getting hit too many times and re-aggravating his herniated discs? And the thing that Rodney said about the quick game was the most interesting to me because that just makes perfect sense that I would expect the ball to be coming out real quickly early on in this game and then also to be more of a run-heavy approach by the Rams.
It's definitely going to be a run-heavy approach. You'll see a lot of Kyron Williams, maybe even Blake Corum. I agree totally. You probably see screens, quick game. But to me, if he's not healthy, and this is just the competitive fire. If I'm D'Amico, I'm bringing the house. I'm gonna make a move. I'm gonna have stunts. I'm gonna have blitzes from the blind side, all type of things to confuse him. Not even confuse him, to get him nervous about getting hit in that back. And I'm also gonna say this: at 37 years old, which I'm the same age as Matt right now, it's a lot going on with your body.
I see those barbells in the background there. Cecil. That's You got to stay away from those straight. You got to stay away from the straight barbells as you get older. Tough on the joints, man.
I wouldn't be surprised if Jimmy Garoppolo makes an appearance sometime in the first 4 games.
Yeah,
Matthew Stafford. I just wouldn't be. I don't know how. And Matthew's a tough dude. Oh my gosh, he went through hell in Detroit. He went through hell with injuries and not winning in the whole 9. But at 37, it's hard to be able to come back from anything, especially a back injury, right? So it's going to be interesting to see how it goes. But if I'm D'Amico, man, I'm bringing the heat.
That's boy, I'm glad you brought that up because D'Amico doesn't blitz a whole bunch, but he goes through stretches where he'll send them. And if he were to start in early and often on that could get real interesting. If Jimmy Garoppolo comes in the game, I'm sorry, Rams fans, it's over, man. He's going to throw 19 interceptions versus this defense. So I don't even want to think about the possibility of that because it's just that would be like found money. The Rams are at FanDuel still 3-point favorites in this game. The more I think about it, and I'm trying to be as unbiased as possible, that, man, the prospect of this Texans pass rush going up against Matt Stafford with his back, but then also Alaric Jackson, their left tackle, he's had blood clots all preseason and he's good to go, but it doesn't seem like anybody that I've talked to or read in the Rams situation feels like they're super confident that he's going to be the best version of himself and he's going to be going up against Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson, everybody, obviously.
I'm trying not to be biased too. I don't know how they're 3-point dogs. Like I'm thinking about Matthew Stafford coming back. I'm thinking about this defense, how on paper, right? On paper, how incredible this defense is put together. Mm-hmm. And then maybe because we just know a little bit more about the offense, a little more optimistic. Maybe I'm thinking, okay, why are they the dogs? But I can't see them being dogs in the situation at all.
I think from the outside looking in, I get it because there's no reason, if you haven't been watching the offensive line closely during camp, there's no reason for you to believe that the Texans are going to be any better than they were last year if you just look at it on paper. So I think outside of Houston, it's sometimes offensive coordinators can be overrated, and when you start blaming an offensive coordinator as much as we are because we saw what happened last year, I get it and I understand it, but I do think that's if you feel the same way, like you and I both feel like the offensive line is going to be much improved and that CJ is going to have a better performance this year, then I like that number personally if I'm betting on the Texans. If you don't like the candidates you're getting for a job you're trying to fill, go to ZipRecruiter, because with ZipRecruiter, they can find amazing candidates for you and they can do it fast. Right now, you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/audio. ZipRecruiter's smart technology identifies top talent for your roles quickly. Immediately after you post your job, ZipRecruiter's powerful matching technology starts showing you qualified people for it. So ditch the other hiring sites and let ZipRecruiter find what you're looking for. That needle in the haystack. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try it for free at this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/audio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/audio. It's ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. I think the one other big thing, Cecil, if you're on the outside looking in, is, hey, Nick Caley is a brand new offensive coordinator, and you're going up against his counterpart for the Rams, obviously, is Sean McVay, widely known and regarded as one of the best play callers in the league. He's going to be, Caley obviously is going to be calling the plays directly against Sean McVay. It's going to be against Shula, their defensive coordinator. But if we get into some of the matchups and maybe some of the more underrated or appropriately rated matchups in the game, this is one that doesn't get talked about a lot because Nick Caley's not a big name. But Nick Caley is a first-time offensive coordinator. I'm always... Man, I've been bullish on coordinators during training camp before, and then week one's a whole different scenario. There's a tendency for first-time offensive coordinators to try to do too much too soon. Bobby Slowick a couple years ago was out there with a rookie quarterback and a whole bunch of new players just trying to do everything in the playbook versus the Ravens in week one. And it wasn't so hot.
Yeah, I remember that clear as day. You know what? I think with Nick Caley, and what gets me about Nick is he's been around so many good other coordinators. You know what I mean? Like, he's been around McVay for a number of years. He's been around not only Belichick, but who was offensive coordinator when he was there? McDaniels. Mm-hmm. Like, he's been around these guys, and they had tons of success. So he's seen it before. Now, it's going to be different actually having to adjust. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
You come out with a plan, right? As an OC, you come with a plan. Now, the plan may work or it does not work, or they may catch on to it. How do you adjust? One thing Bobby Slowick struggled with the last few years, especially last year, second half adjustments. How do you make adjustments during the game and in the second half when they have a plan for what you came in to decide to do?
Yeah.
So for me, how can he make those adjustments? Can he clearly communicate to the guys, and can he clearly get that across to them so we can go out there and execute, right?
Yeah.
I think that's going to be the biggest thing.
This is D'Amico when asked about Nick Caley and whether there was any advice that D'Amico could give him, having been a first-time play caller not too long ago, to Nick Caley.
Is ready to go. Caley's been through a ton of situations all through training camp, all through OTAs. We've been through a lot of different situations. All right, he's called a ton of plays throughout the offseason, throughout training camp, in the preseason games. He has reps on task, so he's ready to go.
Yeah, so obviously, there's nothing else that D'Amico's going to say about that, other than when he touched on the situational football. I think that's one thing that D'Amico does a lot of during practice. Kind of like what Belichick's really good at is putting guys in different situations and making them think on the fly. They're doing it to the quarterbacks, doing it to the guys, the play callers on defense. And then with Caley, I think the thing that I'm most optimistic about him in terms of just, avoiding that problem that I described with Bobby Slowick in the first game is that ever since Caley got here, he's just been hammering the fundamentals, get the basics right. And he strikes me as the kind of guy that would rather keep a simplified playbook until the team proves that they can do more and add on more. Yeah.
Did you see how D'Amico looks so big just now? Like, he looks swollen.
Let me see.
He's ready to go.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he does.
Look at the biceps. God,
you know what?
Get over. I'm sorry.
Oh, he does. Yeah. Look at his arms.
I'm
He's
like,
got the cartoon arms back.
He just got done bench pressing. He had to, or curls or something. He just got done and then did the press conference. But no, I'm with you. I think he's going to keep it simple.
Yeah.
I think that's the best way to go about it until you feel like you've mastered what you're good at, right? I want to see what's the identity of the offense. Is it going to be an inside zone scheme? Is it going to be duo? Is it going to be power? Is it going what's the identity of the run game? What's the identity of the offense as a whole? And then make it simple. If you make it simple, you guys can execute at a high level. Then you can add on as you go about it, right? And I love what D'Amico said about how he's putting him in situations, and you mentioned how in the Belichick tree they always put him like situations at practice, whether it's the coaches, the players, whether it's 2 minute, 4 minute, whatever the case may be, and that helps for sure. But it's different when it's in the game.
Yeah, no, it's a lot different.
Yeah, it's in the game. But I'm glad he has had that stuff.
Everything's spinning around. Yeah, D'Amico, he slimmed down for a while there. Yeah, I want to say every first-time head coach, you see by the end of the year, they're either skinnier or fatter than they were at the beginning. It's like however they deal with stress. And like Vrabel's steadily kind of gotten his dad bod working over these last few years, where I feel like D'Amico tends to get a little bit more emaciated looking. So he's we'll have to check I'm going to take that picture, and then at the end of the season, we can see whether he's gotten skinny or I don't think D'Amico's got it in him to plump up again. You look at pictures of him from when he was a rookie, and you see it just kind of like with J.J. Watt, like, oh, wow, he had some baby fat on him,
Yeah,
And then they both leaned the hell out after that. The FanDuel has the Texans at plus 330 to score a touchdown on their opening offensive drive. And I've been drinking a lot of Kool-Aid, man, with this team. I'm feeling good about that right now. If they go out and score a touchdown on opening drive, you will not find a more irrationally overconfident person than myself. Nick Caley's going to be the offensive coordinator of the year in my mind. I'm ready for it.
Unstoppable. Going to the AFC Championship. Won't be stopped. The next Andy Reid.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. All those things. Genius. Probably a next head coaching candidate.
There he is.
The flip side of the coin is D'Amico Ryans versus Sean McVay. And D'Amico has a lot of experience from his days in San Francisco going against Sean McVay. The part that's intriguing to me, because D'Amico will tell you, you got to try not to think too much about what the guy used to do because McVay reinvents himself all the time. There's two dynamics. One is that the Rams don't play their starters in the preseason much, so you don't have a lot of film on what they've done, but you've got a lot of film of these players other than Davante Adams and a couple offensive linemen. You've got a lot of film of these Rams players playing, their offense. With the Rams, they've got preseason film of the Texans, but they don't have really a lot of film of a lot of these guys on offense running this scheme. And I feel like, take all of the coaching experience, everything, and out of it, I feel like the Texans have a little bit of an advantage. Like, as a player, I hated going into week one and watching a brand new offense with a bunch of players that I don't have any film on. Like, so you're watching like 3 drives from the preseason and you can't go back to last year at all. So that part of the unknown, I feel like that part favors the Texans, at least for the Texans offense versus the Rams defense.
There's always going to be some type of, and I know McVay and D'Amico said that McVay kind of switches identity every year. He has tendencies. Every OC, every DC, every head coach, they have tendencies. And you'll be able to catch them. And they'll at least, like you said, they have film on him from the last few years. You got Puka. You got a lot of the same guys in the same offense that you'll be able to understand, okay, what's coming on third down, what's their tendencies here and there. So it's going to be interesting. And like you said, you haven't seen C.J. Gardner-Johnson in this role. You haven't seen certain guys in this role, right? You haven't seen how they're going to use EJ Speed. You haven't seen how they're going to use certain guys, and they involve as well. Just like the Rams or McVay involves his offense every year. D'Amico does a good job of involving his defense every year. And again, with the injury to Stafford, I wouldn't be surprised. Like you mentioned it, he's more passive on the blitz. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets out of his tendency instead of being passive and be more aggressive and attack him and make him get rid of the ball quickly, make him be uncomfortable, right? That's the worst thing for a quarterback, is to be uncomfortable. Now your timing is off. He hasn't had that much timing with Davante Adams. He hasn't had that much timing, and he knows Puka the last 2 years, but he hasn't had much time this offseason with him at all. So anytime you can speed that process up for him, the advantage is to the defense.
That was actually Davante Adams versus Jalen Petrie was one of my more underrated or under-discussed matchups, because look, you go back to the Jets game last year, Jalen Petrie was manned up on Davante Adams in the slot. Texans ran a 6-man blitz, and I mean, Henry To'oTo'o was really close to he was about a half step away. If he had taken a slightly different angle, he would have been there and hit Rodgers, but Rodgers unleashes it to Davante Adams. And, like Jalen, they don't expect Jalen Petrie to be able to cover Davante Adams like a blanket. So I guess the other part of that matchup becomes, all right, how much does Derek Stingley travel in this game? And if he travels, is it with Davante Adams? Is it with Puka Nacua? Is it with either one of them at various times? Because when you're trying to work in a new safety, perhaps, I mean, C.J. Gardner-Johnson can handle a lot of different change. It's not just the challenge for Derek Stingley, but in the first game of the season, when you have a cornerback travel with a receiver, that puts more stress on the other cornerbacks as well, because they gotta change things up and play a little bit out of their comfort zone.
I think in a game like this where you have two solid, really good receivers, I think you stay on the same side.
Yeah. And
I think the only thing I may do as a defensive coordinator when Davante Adams goes to the slot, depending on what side he's on, I might have that guy go to the slot, right? Depending on who else is out there, based on, of course, if you're a nickel or dime or whatever the case may be, right, on defense. But because Devontae, to me, if I'm the Rams, I'm putting him in the slot. I want him on Jalen Petrie. I want him on C.J. Gardner-Johnson. I want him on a safety because I think he's a better route runner than that guy can cover, right? So that's the difficult part. Who is going to cover him in the slot? If they're outside, let Kamari and Stingley go to work. But if they go inside, how are you going to handle that matchup?
Yeah, and that's where, Kamari got a couple of games of heavy experience in the slot last year and did real well with it. So it's going to be interesting to see how they work Kamari last year or this year in the slot. If you are concerned about your coverage online, delete me. They make it easy, quick, and safe to remove your personal data online at a time when surveillance and data breaches are common enough to make everybody vulnerable. Data brokers make a profit off your data. Your data is a commodity, and anyone on the web can buy your private details. This can lead to identity theft, phishing attempts, and harassment. But now you can protect your privacy with Delete Me. Take control of your data and keep your private life private by signing up for Delete Me. Now at a special discount for our listeners and viewers. Today you can get 20% off your Delete Me plan by texting PRO, P-R-O, to 64,000. The only way to get 20% off is to text PRO to 64000. That's PRO to 64000. Message and data rates may apply. If I said one too many zeros there, it's just 3 zeros. It's 64000. I get lost in the zeros sometimes. The other big, the underrated or under-discussed, I mean, we talk a lot about offensive line. We talked about Ariante Ursary versus the edge rushers for the Rams. Because, look, Jared Verse is awesome, but Byron Robinson's really good as well. But Jake Andrews, the center. Like Jake Andrews has 70 or so snaps on the offensive line in the NFL. And the Texans pick him up in the offseason, and you're wondering, okay, he's going to compete for a job, but who knows? And then steadily over the course of camp, it became really clear that they like Jake Andrews. So Jake Andrews versus Poona Ford, Braden Fisk, the rest of those guys on the defensive line, that's something that I'm going to be watching keenly in the first quarter.
That's going to be huge because Fisk and Ford are pretty darn good.
Yeah.
And that D-line, even though I think the total defense is a run defense last year, they struggled. They have some really good individual guys. Like
right.
Fisk. So that actually surprises me because individually, there's some pretty darn good D tackles and defensive ends. And Andrews, like you said, 70-plus starts. That's about 5 years worth of starts.
No, 70 snaps.
Oh, 70 snaps.
Snaps total.
70 snaps. So just understanding his limited snaps versus those guys who are kind of veterans that played a little bit more, it's going to be interesting. I think in camp he proved he can be the guy, but you're going to have to be a physical dog. You're going to have to know your assignment. You got to communicate well because everything starts with that center. If he's not calling him and CJ together, you got to make sure they're on the same page, calling the mics, calling the slide protections, because that's going to be huge. If they're on the same page and then execute. You mentioned only 70 snaps.
Yes.
Only 70 snaps makes me a little nervous right now.
I know. But that's and you touched on it exactly right. It's all the things going on. It's not just if you're playing guard. All right, you're receiving the calls, you're processing, you're making some. There's some communication that goes on, but you're not directing traffic as much. So yeah, CJ's involved in the pass protection, but the center is still dictating a lot of things. That's true in anything in life. Whenever you add a little bit of complexity to the situation, it makes it that much harder. So yeah, I mean, I'm guilty of this. Most linemen will tell you this when they're watching football. They have to keep reminding themselves, oh yeah, watch where the ball goes and everything. Because I'll spend 4 series just watching the linemen and not have a clue what the score of the game is. I got to remind myself in this game, like, okay, wait a second, move away from the interior offensive line or move away from Ariante Ursary. Because it's, as D'Amico said earlier this week, is as much of a cliche as it is, like this is a game that I think is really on both sides for both teams. It's going to be decided in the trenches.
Oh, for sure. I don't think honestly, I don't think many games that aren't that way, but especially for the Texans, it's going to say a lot about where you are as an offensive line and defensive line. Defensive line especially to be really good, but as an offensive line early, I was going to say a lot about Nick Caley, a lot about how good the offensive line is. It's a really good test with that defensive line from the Rams, and it's going to say a lot about the offense. So I'm excited to see it. So
you've got your first game of the season on Thursday night with Lamar, right?
No, we played last week.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Cascasita. They were top 5 they're like 30th in the nation, and they're top 5 in the state. And we were up 14-0 in the first quarter. Opening kickoff, we take it to the house. The next kickoff, we kick it off after we scored, right? We strip the ball, they fumble, we go score, and then we lose by 20. But it's okay.
But it's just Tascasita. Yeah. All right, man. I gotta say, you got the. If you're watching on YouTube or if you're listening, you can't see. He's in the weight room. He's got the barbell stacked up behind him. Like Cecil is ready to go. You got the hex bar squat bars there. Those are. I prefer those to the straight bars anymore. Yes. All right. I'm excited to talk to you on Monday, man. This is gonna be fun. It's here. It's week 1. Thank you, everybody. Please like, subscribe. If you can leave a review on Apple Podcasts, that would be awesome. It's the Believe in Texans podcast presented by FanDuel.